Last time on The Ables, our characters participated in Baby's first Council of Elrond, where they all went to a big meeting to talk about why they should participate in the Super Sim. We learned about the gavel, that no one gets to spend time with without the president, and which our main character yeeted at someone's face. But thanks to the last-minute impassioned plea of a teacher, it looks like our characters are indeed going to be able to participate in superhero LARPing.
We're here with this thing, and we're going to try to read some more, which is why I have my companion ice cream, so I don't want to die. I thought that it would be badly written. I just didn't think it would be so boring. Like, how do you fuck up a superhero book this bad? When is a supervillain going to come and kill some people? Seriously, it needs to happen right now. I mean, this next chapter is called The Competition, so maybe we're getting straight into the Super Sim, which would be great. And I got chocolate ice cream on the book already, so that's great. It's a little souvenir for whoever gets this book next, because I'm not keeping it. This is a common thing that newbie writers do. This is a common mistake. Glossing over anything that might be difficult for the main character to do, any learning experience. So remember when it was difficult for him to use his, like, telekinesis, but then all of a sudden we're just told that he's been practicing it and now he's good at it? Same thing. He's like, we've been practicing using that, like, site sharing thing, and now we're really good at it. And not that you have to show every minute of a character's growth, but the growth is more interesting than just telling us, oh, I practiced, trust me. Now, granted, this book doesn't need more padding. The other thing they did, again, glossed over, is that now, conveniently, Henry doesn't have to be upset to use the power. If you're gonna have all of it be easy, why make it hard in the first place? Of course, the characters are having huge success with it, but I think this would be the worst and most disorienting way to see ever. Because it's not like a video, or at least not yet. So it's more like a flash, like a bunch of still pictures coming his way. Because you're looking through someone else's eyes, it's not the same angle. Like, you could be standing next to each other, but your view is slightly different. So if you're walking along the street, and you're getting flashes of your buddy next to you, you could run into something. Because you're looking through your buddy's eyes. It seems like it would be so disorienting. It's so difficult to figure out anything. We do learn that because of the style that he has to use, he has trouble seeing things that are moving, so he was unable to move a cat or a bicyclist, for example. But anything that's stationary, he can move using his mind. Someday I will frame my shots correctly, but you all are probably just listening to this in your pockets anyway, so what does it matter? So he has his buddy over so he can finally see his family, which isn't the worst plot point. These, like, 2 pages have just been telling us all of the things that he's doing now that he can see. And it's really boring, quite frankly. He gets to see himself, obviously, and he says that I wasn't particularly attractive, but I wasn't ugly either. Like, what is your basis? You've never seen other humans until very recently. What is your basis for what is attractive? Again, I have another question. If you've been blind since birth and you have never seen a human, actually physically seen with your eyes a human, what is attractive? He gets to see the ocean, which, as we established, he likes the ocean. That is his one character trait. Likes ocean. Ooh, and we find out that Henry is black. So, that's a twist. Finally, we are getting ready to go to the Super Sim. Thank goodness. We only had like 3 to 4 pages, 3.5 pages of the main character just faffing around and describing all of the things he was seeing now and how well they were, like, telling us of challenges they faced, but then overcame, so why are you even telling us, you know? So they're waiting around to join the Super Sim, and his friends are like, wow, everyone's really dressed up today. And he's like, what? And they're like, yeah, everyone's dressed in their superhero outfits today. And a main character's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, why aren't they using their shared sight thing, like, to let him see what everybody looks like at this point? Our main character is now a bit of a folk hero, in his own words, because of what he did in the hearing, and I don't really understand why. Like, yeah, he used a superpower, but they all have superpowers, so He bonked somebody in the face with a gavel. Maybe that's the part everybody likes. They're like, yeah, all the teenagers are like, yeah, violence, or the 12-year-olds, or however old they are. They don't act like 12-year-olds. I keep forgetting that they're not like 16. We were the underdogs who had taken on the school board, attacked the school board, and literally won. We know. We were there. Another team, because they're all in their little superhero teams, another team that has named themselves the Vipers come up to our heroes and are like, yeah, right on. Fist bumps all around, whatever. And then when they walk away, our heroes just like shit talk them so hard for like their costume choices and how Vipers aren't even really that cool in real life. And it's just like, why? Why? Why are you like this? Are you trying to do like the trash talking to like psych yourselves up? Because it just seems like you're assholes. Of course, their team has apparently made the choice to go costume free because they're cool and they're like not weird like these freaks wearing their superhero costumes, even though you are all superheroes. Why are you proud of going costume free? Of course, their team name is the Ables. Hello, ding.
Roll credits.
And then they're hassled by Steve. Remember, there were Chad and Steve, and then Chad was disappeared off the face of the earth, so now we just have Steve, who is hassling them, and it's like, how dare you hassle them to their faces? You should just make fun of them behind their backs like our heroes do. Come on. And of course, Steve's team are called the Punishers, which makes me think, is the Punisher an actual comic in this world? And are they just being very, very derivative? Like, I need to know. Now, Henry is just like letting our main character see whatever he needs, because we are just getting visual descriptions of everything, so I guess our main character is now just seeing through Henry's eyes, whereas before he wasn't, for some reason, when he didn't know that everybody was in costumes. It's really inconsistent. I can't decide if the main character is just really full of himself and thinks he's awesome, which is fairly common for 12-year-old boys, I'll be real. Or is it the author trying to convince us that the character is awesome? Because the main character says, "Get lost, Steve," I said, finally speaking up, if only to have an end to it. "We don't want any trouble. Always trying to make peace. I would have made a good mediator." So is it the main character being like, I'm so good at peacemaking, man, I'm awesome at this, I'm 12 years old? Or is it the author being like, isn't my main character great? He would be so good at all of these things. He'd make an amazing mediator. I cannot tell. Also, we haven't talked about Donnie at all until just mentioning him now. It's like, oh yes, also Donnie is here. He gets the short end of the stick so much. All of this talking at the beginning of this chapter about how they're practicing, and no mention of Donnie at all. Okay, is our main character seeing things or not? Because we got visual descriptions, like last page, so that means that Henry is blinking information into his brain pretty frequently right now. But now he says, the sound of a mile-wide smile in his voice. Can't you see that he's smiling? Is Henry just not looking at him? Like, when are you using this power and when are you not? You guys know I pick on these things in Jenna's books as well. All the chatter came to a standstill. Chatter, like people talking, can sound stand still. Or does he mean all the chatter came to an end? In my humble opinion, you should try to avoid things like this that might make some readers stop and go, wait, what? You want to have a reading experience be as smooth as possible for as many people as possible, so throwing in like all the chatter came to a standstill could definitely halt some readers like myself and make us go, can chatter stand still? Alright, the Super Sim has begun. We are finally getting down to something.
Thank you, Jesus!
Let's see how our beloved Jeremy Scott writes action. This is such a mood. Like, I do LARPing, and I go to LARP events where there are quests and that kind of thing, and I've been in this exact position. The go-ahead has been called, the LARP has begun, but our characters are like, where do we actually go to find any of these crimes? Because they have to apprehend criminals, but they don't know how to find them, and it's like, I have been there. When the quest starts, and you're like, you're standing there with your team like, great, where do we go first? Like, what do we do? How do we get some quest hooks and get started here? So they hear a scream, and they all head in that direction. They teleport over there, but of course, because they're the first, like, obvious quest hook is a scream, so many other teams are already there. This does beg the question, how do the superheroes the custodians normally find out about crimes? Do they listen into police scanners? Like what? And why would they not let these kids do the same thing if that's how they are going to be doing it when they're adults and they're superheroes? Instead, they're just like, figure out how to find crime. But I don't understand how that works in the real world. Our main character claims he doesn't have super hearing, but they've heard a second scream. The first scream, he knew exactly how many blocks away it was and what intersection it was at, and I'm like, okay, well, we know he has good hearing. Whatever, he's supposed to be new to the town, but okay, he guessed right. But they just heard another scream, and he guesses right again. And it's like, well, okay. Does he have super hearing where he can just be that fucking accurate? So they're too late again because they keep going to only the most obvious crimes, but that brings up a point. This one is at the bank on the corner, and he's like, oh, well, this is probably like a bank robbery thing. Since you know there are going to be crimes taking place in this town, why don't you go to places where those crimes are likely to go down and just wait to see if something happens? Go to a bank or go to a general store to see if somebody's going to try to hold it up or something. You know what common crimes are. Go try to find some. At least Bentley is like, we can't keep using this scream method because we're always going to be late. Aha! They are using my plan, but it took them a really long time to get there. Now granted they are 12, but like one of them is supposed to be a super genius. So, but now they're, like a page later, they're finally being like, wait a minute. What if we go to where crimes are likely to happen? And then they make Genius Bentley, like, literally stop for several minutes, close his eyes, and think of all the places where criminals might go. It's only the super genius kid can figure out where criminals might go. They're wasting so much time on this. All the crimes are going to be solved by the time they do anything. It's not because they have disabilities that they're slowed down. It's because they are all just not very smart. I get that they're 12, but so is their competition. I just can't get over it. Our main character is floored by the fact that this genius kid can list off places criminals are likely to go.
You magnificent bastard, I read your book!
When pressed, the genius kid does manage to come up with, like, places that they're less likely to already have superhero teams at them because other teams have clearly already thought of this. So he's like, we can't go to the bank because other teams will already be there. Same with the jewelry store. Let's go to some of the places where other teams might not go straight to. Honestly, though, in a thing like the Super Sim, where they're supposed to be, like, learning to be superheroes, I bet you there's a crime at just about every establishment in town. So the kids think the teleportation office is the place for us, because certainly if I were a criminal, I would want to go there and stop superheroes from being able to teleport to wherever we are, which is a good thought. But unfortunately, they find out when they get there that this is off limits for the games for that very reason. They want to make sure that the teleportation office stays operational in case the custodians, the superheroes, need to go fight actual crimes. So, yeah, our main characters are not doing well so far. I'm also curious if having them go there is going to come up at all, or whether we just needed to have something else that, like, stops our main characters from actually getting to anything resembling action. So they decide to try a car dealership instead. I do feel this feel, though, like, they get to the car dealership and everything's quiet, and they're like, how do we know if our competition has already been here? And boy, I have been in this position in a questing day where my team is just, like, a little bit behind everybody. We took too long to decide where we wanted to go first, and now everywhere we go, some other team has already beaten us to the quest objective. This is the most accurate thing in this entire book. Do you LARP, Jeremy Scott? Please answer me, I need to know. I don't like the argument, but I like the reaction. So the boys start fighting about what they should do next. Our main character thinks they should hide in case a criminal shows up, but Henry thinks that that's a stupid idea, and they go back and forth, and Henry withdraws sight from our character. I think that's just a funny image where they're angry and they're shouting at each other, and he's just like, fine, I'm taking my vision and I'm going home. Where is frickin', what's his name? I can't even remember his name. It starts with a D. Donnie. I wanted to say Dudley, but I know that's not it. Where's Johnny? Because the only people we ever hear from, what they're doing, are Henry, Bentley and our main character. I'm assuming Donnie is here. He was with them at the beginning of this. These characters don't give a fuck about Donnie until he has to help them. And that's like a really toxic relationship, and I hate it. But as they finish arguing, they see some lights and hear some banging coming from near the library, which they were also told was not part of the sim. And I'm sure they're gonna like solve or stop a real crime of some kind, but like ultimately I wish that we had gotten to see them do at least one fake one so I could better understand how the super sim works. But I feel like the author did not actually think about how that would go down. But before they can go over there, our characters have to whinge about whether it's too dangerous, which maybe is realistic, but it's really boring. That is the end of chapter 12, and I'll probably read chapter 13 as well because it's short. Okay, let's get started with chapter 13. All of our brave heroes. Is this chapter just going to be whinging? I need to know if they... Because chapter 14 is called The Library. Chapter 13 is called Book Thief. No points for mentioning the name of a much more successful book there, Jeremy. James is here too. Who is James and what does he do? My camera decided to try to save me and my memory card was full, so I had to get everything off of it. But we're back. Even my camera is trying to save me from this book. So we got characters, our main characters are sneaking into the library where they think things are going down. And our main character decides to take up some of our time with, we'd been to the library a few times since moving to Freepoint and I'd always enjoyed it. It had a more official, stately feeling as a building with 2-story high ceilings and expensive marble floors. And it's like, I get that you're trying to describe the library, but at the same time, you're trying to sneak in. And this took all of the tension that you were trying to build and just yeeted it out the window. So the criminals or whoever's in the library turn the lights out, so now everyone's effectively blind. And they hear someone walking around near them. And our main character decides the best course of action is to yell, "Stop where you are." So now he's revealed their location to whoever is in the library. Which, I mean, on the one hand, was a really, really bad move on our main character's part, but on the other hand, maybe now something will happen. And whoever they were not doing a good job of hiding from has found them and is all like, because we'd never have a chance to get acquainted with one another, young James. And he's all prim and he has a British accent and he's probably the main villain. He's either the villain or he's here to recruit them for a super secret superhero team. We definitely have a supervillain. He has a horrifying scar that runs down the middle of his face, and if that doesn't spell definitely a supervillain, Two-Face-esque situation, I don't know what does. Otherwise, though, he looks like a granddad in a suit. So the bad guy... This is interesting. At first, the bad guy's like, okay, well, nice meeting you, I have to leave, and also, you might get blamed for this crime, because you're probably leaving behind way more evidence than I am. And then the main character's like, we'll catch you, we won't let you escape. And then the bad guy's like, not if you're in Cleveland, and teleports them to Cleveland.
What?
You have to admire a bad guy who's unpredictable. And I will safely say that I did not predict him teleporting them to Cleveland. Okay, they get transported to Cleveland, and they're going back and forth, like, where are we, blah, blah, blah. And then it says, Henry just screamed. Same Henry. If I was suddenly transported to Cleveland, that would be my response as well. A cop sees them. Conveniently, there just happens to be a cop who drives up on them while they're standing in this parking lot that they teleported to in Cleveland. And then they teleport away again. The guys and I had gone back to the plaza, found some adults, and breathtakingly told them about what happened. I think you mean breathlessly told them about what happened. And of course, the Super Sim ended while they were in Cleveland. Even though they were in Cleveland like a total of 2 minutes, I guess that's very fast LARPing. So the boys are all back, they're all disappointed, they didn't get a single bad guy in the Super Sim, and now nobody believes them that they found somebody suspicious in the library. And they're like, ugh, our reputations are ruined. But their mom is like, your reputations are going to be ruined a lot. When you're a superhero, people are going to dislike you. Their dad's like, from what you've told us, you did the right thing, except for going into the building without backup. And I'm like, that's the only thing they did. So, they did everything wrong then. Okay. Sure. So the main character goes to bed, but he's listening to his parents in their bedroom through the wall because they happen to have adjacent bedrooms. Mom sounded concerned. First the kidnappings and now this. There's been more than one kidnapping? That was news to me. Mom continued. Strangers showing up in town and confronting our children? It's going to be fine, honey. From Philip's description, this guy sounded like an old man, and a charming one at that. I'm not convinced he's dangerous. He teleported your kids to Cleveland! But yeah, no, the old man who showed up and teleported your children away, probably not dangerous. So that's pretty much the parents' conversation. They're like, oh, the mom is, of course, super supportive. Like, of course, I believe my son in all things. And the dad's like, I don't know, that seems really weird, that there would be an old man who would teleport our kids to Cleveland. But that's the end of that chapter. And now I'm going to eat a late lunch and not read any of that anymore for a little while. We're like halfway through, but it feels like we've been halfway through for 80 years. Hello everyone, welcome to my dark living room where there are ferrets loose. It's really rainy again today, so the lighting is shit. And I'm having a slightly different place in hopes that it's quieter because Adam's doing stuff in the next room and making noise. But he's also making me food, so I don't want to disturb him. It's just a noisy night, but we're gonna still read some of this book because I need to get through it before The Savior's Sister comes out. Why did I say I would do this? Why did I say I would do back-to-back read-alongs of 2 books? Because I make bad life choices. And also I honestly thought this book would be more entertaining. I was ready to have a good time with this one, and instead I am quite bored. I'm entertained. The pizza place in the town that the kids go to is called Jack's Pizza, which is not only the name of my favorite brand of pizza, but we also have a Jake's Pizza right in our area, so I kind of wish, during the Super Sim, there were certain buildings that weren't part of this sim, and that really should have been included in the briefing beforehand instead of us finding that out right before it was relevant. That's something you want to make sure that you're putting in, like if it makes sense. Obviously it would make sense while they're explaining the rules that certain buildings like the library were not going to be included in the sim, instead of just finding that out literally right before they needed to know it. So everybody thinks they're liars because they have no proof that they met someone in the library who transported them to Cleveland. But on the other hand, what the heck motivation could these kids have to lie about that? If they knew they were going to lose the Super Sim, there were a bunch of things that they could have come up with to be like, this is why we lost. But no, they come up with, strange man who smokes a pipe teleports us to Cleveland? They met their teacher in the pizza place, and she is quickly becoming their fairy godmother. Not only did she appear exactly when they needed her during the hearing, but now they're talking to her and she's like, oh, well, the authorities did an investigation and they couldn't find anything, hint, hint, hint. And then our main character's like, are you saying we should do our own investigation? And she's like, not saying I am, not saying I'm not, but it's a public library, hint, 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 hint. Whenever these guys need to be propelled forward, that teacher just appears. They're in the part of the library where they were pretty sure Cleveland Man was. And it's a back portion of the reference section, which apparently is all dusty and cobwebby because I guess this library doesn't clean or something. Our library, where I come from, is pretty large, and everything is very clean. So none of the books would be dusty and moldy like this they're describing. We've just had a hilarious slapstick mishap somehow. Henry turned his wheelchair and smacked it into the wheeled ladder that Bentley was on, causing Bentley to fall into Henry's lap and both of them to fall over backwards. I'm assuming this is going to lead to them finding exactly the right book. Okay, so I was close. The tumble, the super unrealistic, weird tumble, did clue them into something. When Henry was down there, he sent a flash of vision to our main character, who saw something in one of the tiles of the floor. So he makes the boy who uses a wheelchair literally drag himself along the floor until he gets back to the same spot where he was so that he can see the thing. Ah, they have figured it out. When he has got his head right down by the floor, our main character's vision disappears, meaning that there is a no power zone or null power zone right in that spot on the floor. So it's a good thing that they fell in a really awkward way right on exactly the correct spot to notice that. Alright, I'm going to stop here. Probably should read more than one chapter, but I don't feel like it. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. But they're going to investigate and try to find the secret tunnel. Secret tunnel. Probably just a secret room. But either way, it's definitely whatever Cleveland man was after. So we might, halfway through this book, be getting an actual plot. It's really disappointing that so much of the beginning of this book was taken up with the Super Sim that literally took up a chapter and then was over. That's like if the Hunger Games led up to the Hunger Games and it was over in a chapter. It's like, psych, it's not actually about that. Bye. I will catch you for the next chapter.
Why, yes, I am going to tell you all about my patrons. My patrons like Ray, Artemis, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Ryakio, Irene, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, Callison, and Lennox. Have you ever heard of a better collection of patrons? Of course you haven't. Mine are the best.
Secret tunnel, secret tunnel, through the mountains. Secret, 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 secret tunnel.